Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, in this video, we are going to cover top 50 important MCQs from the Banking Regulation Act and the RBI Act, especially for the IBPS Law Officer exam. So let's start the video. The Reserve Bank of India was established on April 1st, 1935 in accordance with the provisions of the Reserve Bank of India Act 1934. Under which section of the RBI Act 1934 does the RBI have the sole right to issue bank notes in India? Section 22. As per Section 8 of the RBI Act, what is the maximum number of deputy governors that can be appointed to the central board? 4. Scheduled banks are those banks which are included in the dash schedule of the Reserve Bank of India Act 1934. Second, under Section 42(1) of the RBI Act, every scheduled bank must maintain a cash reserve ratio with the RBI. What is the current statutory minimum floor limit for CRR? No minimum floor limit. Which chapter of the RBI Act deals with the registration and regulation of non-banking financial companies? Chapter 3B. Section 45(1)(a) of the RBI Act mandates that no NBFC shall commence or carry on business without obtaining a certificate of registration and having a minimum net owned fund of rupees 2 crores. The Monetary Policy Committee is constituted by the central government under which section of the RBI Act 1934? Section 45ZB. How many members constitute the Monetary Policy Committee as per the RBI Act? 6. In case of a tie in voting in the Monetary Policy Committee, who has the casting vote? Governor of RBI. What is the inflation target that the central government, in consultation with the RBI, determines under Section 45ZA of the RBI Act and how often it is revised? Once every 5 years. Under Section 24 of the RBI Act, what is the maximum denomination for bank note that the RBI can issue? Rupees 10,000. Under Section 26 of the RBI Act, who has the power to declare that any series of banknotes of any denomination shall cease to be legal tender? Central Government on the recommendation of the Central Board. Section 31 of the RBI Act prohibits any person other than the RBI or the central government from drawing, accepting, making, or issuing any bill of exchange or promissory note payable to bearer on demand. This prevents parallel currency issuance by private parties. If the RBI fails to carry out any of its obligations, under which section can the central government supersede the central board of the RBI? Section 30. According to Section 45(1)(c) of the RBI Act, a financial institution does not include an institution whose principal business is agricultural operations. Which section empowers the RBI to direct an NBFC to furnish statements, informations, or particulars relating to its deposits? Section 45K. The Banking Regulation Act 1949 was originally passed as Banking Companies Act 1949. According to Section 5B of the Banking Regulation Act, banking means the accepting of deposits of money from the public for the purpose of lending or investment, repayable on demand or otherwise, are withdrawable by check, draft, order, or otherwise. Under Section 6 of the Banking Regulation Act, what is the significance of the activities listed? They are the forms of business in which banking companies may engage. Section 8 of the Banking Regulation Act expressly prohibits a banking company from engaging in trading in goods. Under Section 9 of the Banking Regulation Act, a banking company cannot hold any immovable property for a period exceeding 7 years. According to Section 10A of the Banking Regulation Act, what percentage of the board of directors of a banking company must consist of persons having special knowledge or practical experience in accountancy, agriculture, banking, economics, etc.? Not less than 51%. Under Section 10B of the Banking Regulation Act, every banking company shall have a chairman or managing director appointed on a whole-time basis for a continuous term not exceeding 5 years. Section 17 of the Banking Regulation Act relates to the creation of a reserve fund. A banking company incorporated in India must transfer a sum equivalent to what percentage of its declared profit to this fund before declaring any dividends? 20%. No banking company shall hold shares in any company as pledge, mortgagee, or absolute owner of an amount exceeding 30% of the paid up share capital of that company or 30% of its own paid up share capital and reserves, whichever is less. Which section lays down this rule? Section 19. Section 20 of the Banking Regulation Act strictly prohibits a banking company from granting any loans or advances on the security of its own shares. Which section of the Banking Regulation Act empowers the RBI to control advances by banking companies? Section 21. No company shall carry on banking business in India unless it holds a license issued by the RBI. This requirement is mandated under Section 22. Under Section 23 of the Banking Regulation Act, a banking company needs prior permission from the RBI to open a new place of business. Statutory liquidity ratio is maintained by banks under the provisions of which section of the Banking Regulations Act 1949? Section 24. What is the maximum limit for statutory liquidity ratio that the RBI can prescribe under Section 24 of the Banking Regulation Act? 40%. Every banking company is required to prepare its balance sheet and profit and loss account in the forms set out in the dash of the Banking Regulation Act. Third schedule. Under Section 35 of the Banking Regulation Act, who has the power to inspect a banking company? Reserve Bank of India. If the RBI finds that the affairs of a banking company are being conducted in a manner detrimental to the interests of the depositors, it can issue mandatory directions under Section 35A. Which section empowers the RBI to remove managerial and other persons from office in a banking company in the public interest? Section 36AA. Under Section 38 of the Banking Regulation Act, who can apply to the High Court for the winding up of a company? Reserve Bank of India. Section 45 of the Banking Regulation Act deals with the power of the RBI to apply to the central government for suspension of business and preparation of a scheme for reconstruction. The provisions of the Banking Regulation Act 1949 are applied to cooperative banks with certain modifications. Which section incorporates these modifications? Section 56. Under the Banking Regulation Act, an appeal against an order of the RBI cancelling a banking license under Section 22 lies with central government. Section 21A of the Banking Regulation Act restricts the courts from reopening a transaction between a banking company and its debtor on the grounds that the rate of interest charged is excessive. Who conducts the audit of the balance sheet and profit and loss account of a banking company as per Section 30 of the Banking Regulation Act? An auditor qualified under the Companies Act with RBI's prior approval. If any person contravenes the provisions of Section 8, what is the penalty under Section 46 of the Banking Regulation Act? Imprisonment or fine or both? Which section of the Banking Regulation Act places restrictions on loans and advances to directors of the banking company? Section 20. Under the RBI Act, what is the maximum number of directors on the central board that can be nominated by the central government from various fields? 10. A defect in the constitution of the central board of the RBI shall not invalidate any act or proceeding of the board. For a cooperative bank, the requirement to obtain a license from RBI is covered under which section? Section 22. The Banking Regulation Amendment Act 2020 brought dash heavily under the supervision of the RBI to protect depositors' interest. Urban cooperative banks and multi-state cooperative banks. According to Section 45ZA of the RBI Act, the Consumer Price Index is used to determine the inflation target. As per the RBI Act, if a member of the MPC fails to attend dash consecutive meetings of the committee, the central government can remove them. 3. That's all for today. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. See you in the next one.